I believe the exact words were a large portion of their personality off of a hawk.
Yeah, that's still.
That's a very different
Have you
thing.
met
I mean,
everyone
I
that
don't feel less attacked, to be clear.
Have you met literally everyone that lives in John's house?
Well, I'll say this. Nick has a lot of personality.
And so do you. And a lot of that personality is 40k related. And that's okay. It would appear that
Put warriors together
at you guys, which is great.
Jamaican there, John.
Tyranid warriors.
Yeah, baby.
I like the last bone swords.
Oh yeah, it's the move. 100%. Been running them for a while.
Especially just to find the 3 points.
Especially because the rules are broken.
Yeah, it's a stupid interaction.
It stops the overrun thing. And all kinds of things.
Yeah, in such a stupid way. No, the models don't go away. Why?
Because it says so.
Well, it also lets people hit you. I realized I didn't like that.
The fact that bone sorting is not like, you get to swing on death. Like, no, the model remains there. All of the actions completed. Then you swing as still alive, and then pull the model.
Oh, so they can't do things like overrun.
Yeah, they can. If you're 3 inches away from your hive guard, I'll kill the hive warriors and then pile in. No.
Yeah. It's really great. It's really great when you get to play against things through walls and they have to go around to get to the hive guard. Like the single squad of warriors, they just don't get to the hive guard this turn. It's wonderful.
Yeah. It is very helpful.
Oh, because you don't get to pile in.
Consolidate, yeah.
Or consolidate.
Yeah. Just consolidate.
How do we sound, folks?
You sound wonderful.
Are we live?
We are live.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
Exciting.
I'll cut out all my horrible slurs that I've been saying this whole time.
There's one thing I don't like, it's
why
the
elves
Scottish.
aren't people.
Yeah, I know, they're the worst. Groundskeeper Willie's rant of, like, the Scots in Scotland is a very accurate thing.
All right, here we go. You guys ready?
I was born ready.
All right. Welcome to Best in Faction, a competitive Warhammer 40k podcast. I'm Colin, and none of the rest of my normal hosts are with me, because it is time for you all to meet the Hive Mind. Years ago, when I was but a wee lad in the land of 40k, I was trying to make Tyranids work, but I was not afraid of making friends. And I had been talking to Alex Mcdougall, and I had been talking to John Lennon, and the three of us I do not believe had met in person yet. Alex and I had met, but we had not become friends.
Little more than acquaintance, yeah.
Yeah, we had talked one time. And then I asked if we could have a chat where we talked about Tyranid lists. Soon that chat had Nick Nanavati. Soon that chat had Michael Snyder. And we were talking about the most progressive Tyranid lists that were ever existed. Two of the five of us don't really play Tyranids anymore. And so we have replaced those people with Tyler. So let me introduce you to the chat that has made an hilarious number of the Tyranid lists that you guys are familiar with. And we're going to start with the Tyranid father himself, Mr. Alex Mcdougall. You guys may not know this because he lives literally in the middle of nowhere. But between 8th edition and 9th edition, Alex has won the most tournaments on the planet for Tyranids. Now, a lot of those are against sheep and oxen and other things of British Columbia, but he's also outperformed me at basically every major tournament we've both been at. So let's give him the props nonetheless. Alex was the first person that I'm aware of that ran the double Stealer Swarmlord build that was the meta list for a long time. It's a long time ago now. Also with me is the Boy King himself, John Lennon. You probably know John from Art of War, and also from the fact that he's on this show all the time, and also wins Charity Hammer and other things like that. What you may not know is that when John was just 9 years old, he made a Carnifex swarm. He made a Carnifex spam list that was very good and very successful to the point where I continually got messages about how I should be playing it instead of Double Kraken Gene Stealer. John is a Tyranid player to his core, originally starting with Tyranids, and also was involved in making all of the most broken and offensive GSC lists as well when GSC were on top. And we're not going to stop there. We're going to introduce you to Tyler Bortel. Tyler is a man who looks like he should be making really excellent woodwork. And then you talk to him, and you discover that he is barely old enough to be talking to you. That it's actually borderline whether you could get in trouble for spending time with him at the tournament. He's not going to let that stop you, though. He's not going to let him stop that. He's not going to let that stop him. There we go. He's not going to let that stop him from wrecking you, as Tyler overperforms what Tyranids are capable of at basically every tournament. This is the group that I talk Tyranids with, and I'm very happy for you guys to get to hear from them, because for the first time in several millennia, we have new Tyranid rules, and shockingly, they're competitive. All joking aside, let's start off with who thought their rules were going to be terrible. Okay, Tyler's raising his hand. It's an audio podcast, Tyler.
Yeah, I was not optimistic. Was really hoping for maybe maybe a new relic that was worth taking. That's what we got last time. I would have loved a repeat, but we got a little more than that.
Yeah, I was really excited that the rules were coming at the same time as Space Marine rules, because I've resigned myself to only being allowed to play Power Armor when I want to win.
You like playing Space Marines.
I do. I really do, but I've been missing the bugs. It's time to come home.
I have a message from a friend that says I need to give myself credit for Ridge Runners. So that's what I'm doing here.
Well, I think the way it worked was I didn't get credit for the Steeler list, although that was almost parallel thinking. Nick and Dallas Rappaport were working on it at the same time, and then I got all the credit for Ridge Runners, which was your list primarily. Yeah, and then Lennon got all the credit for Demon Karens,
which was both of us. That was both of us.
I didn't take that credit. I think the only credit I deserve was for like the Gene Stealer Cult Codex and then Index Gene Stealer Cult. Tyranids, I haven't done anything creative in a while.
Yeah, fair enough. And Tyler's really, I've seen Tyler's list in the wild a lot too. The double barbed Hybridol thing that you were doing with the the Maliceptor and the Maliceptor actually for a while. I certainly have seen that a lot in the wild too, and that's absolutely Tyler's preferred way of playing Tyranids. So Octarius is good. It's very good. It's enough to make Tyranid something you will have to be prepared for and you'll have to understand. So despite the fact that as a percentage, not that many of you are Tyranid players, we're going to go through the rules and explain what they are, but we're not going to explain them with every word GW gave us. We're going to summarize it for you, and then we're going to talk about why that rule matters, and then at the end we'll talk about what the overall effect is. Before we dive into that, I want to remind you guys of a few things that I thought of, and if you guys have other things to remind them of as well, these are things to keep in mind as you're considering Tyranid lists. The first one is, I'd like Mr. Alex Mcdougall to explain why we have to have Gene Stealer Cult. When you're making a Tyranid list right now, you have to have a Gene Stealer Cult patrol. I think we all agree. Why is that, Alex?
Excuse me. Tyranids aren't tough. Kind of the only toughness Tyranids ever had was through Horde. That was like their durability. It was like, ooh, I have 180 models. But there's a lot of armies right now that just kind of laugh at 180 models that aren't particularly tough. So our defense comes in, I'm not going to let you interact with me, and that's what the blips do. We can only hide so much of the army. There's only so much we can do to like protect ourselves. So the blips just literally take up space on the board and say, stay away from me. I don't want to deal with you. Mm-hmm. They also open up Octarius and engage very easily, which usually Tyranids are fighting for good secondaries.
I'm also a really big fan of appearing 3 inches away from someone and stealing their objective.
Lying in wait is busted.
But John shook his head no. I thought this was a thing we all agreed on. So now John needs to tell us why we don't necessarily need a Gene Stealer Cult patrol.
Oh boy. I'm not convinced one way or another, frankly. I actually have already scheduled games for myself into orcs that I will play without blips. And I figure I know that sounds like, sadism, but I figure if I can pull off that kind of a game, then I'm good in everything else. I don't think that the blips actually help that much if I go second against orcs. Something's getting shot, no matter what. And I've got a Venomthrope unit and the Maliceptor I think I just accept that I'm getting hit by planes somewhere, because I don't think the blips are going to stop planes from flying somewhere and shooting me.
Okay.
And the big thing is I don't know if we have enough blips to stop them from doing it, because if they can fly over a blip and land in our deployment zone, then I haven't actually stopped anything. And I'm pretty sure the planes can advance and shoot on turn 1 if they call a speed walk, which I don't want to make too bold of a prediction, but that usually happens on turn 1. I kind of want to just get on the table and see if it actually helps me.
Okay.
So I'm going to try just taking it on the chin and seeing what happens. I'm hoping that if I can limit their easy kills, put a Venom Thrope in, and have them not just immediately hitting me on 3s with their entire army, that I can just kind of weather it long enough to, do some damage, start tying them up, and make it an actual game. I might not be able to, but I actually want to get on the table because starting at 9 CP has felt like my bare minimum, and it's hard for me to justify less than that.
Yeah, you're going to hear that as we go through the content, that you really need CP, because one thing to remember is that the original Tyranid Codex had really good stratagems. The stratagems, like especially if you compare the Tyranid Codex and the Guard Codex, are now roughly the same age. When they came out, it felt like they weren't the same age, but now it's been 17 years, and 17 years 2 months is so similar. The Guard Codex, its stratagems are terrible comparatively to the Tyranid Codex stratagems, which I think is hilarious, actually. But the other thing I was going to remind you guys of is as we go through this, you're going to hear us say a lot of very familiar names of units. And you probably were hoping that these Octarius rules would encourage great diversity. And unfortunately, as a man who just went and read the Codex cover to cover again the other night, diversity is difficult when so many of your data sheets are just completely unplayable. So, yes, the Octarius rules make us much better. We're going to talk about why that is. Don't be surprised that you're hearing the same vocab that you've been hearing for a long time. The reason those are the things Tyranid players are playing with is because they're the only... It's not that they're the data sheets we're most excited about. They're the only data sheets, is the way that we kind of would think about it. With a few friends that are joining the party now that with the new rules. So, okay. Let's start with talking about Octarius. And I want to start with the thing that I call a different name every time and don't actually know the real name of. Today I'm going to call it Synaptic Boon. That's not its name, though. What's its actual name?
The Hive Mind Synaptic Link.
Ah, Synaptic Link. I think we should let Alex tell us about Synaptic Link. How does it work, and start with what you believe is the best one and work down.
Oh, man. It's hard picking the best one.
That's why I
just
did
picking the best one that we would actually use, or just like raw, what is the best one? Because some of the best ones are on monsters we'd never use.
Then they're not the best one.
Okay. No, there's a distinction.
I would start with the four that we're debating about, and then we'll do the other two. Is kind of what I'm thinking.
I would say that the best one is the one on Warriors. It's just simple. It's obvious. Bioweapon bond. Just hand out a +1 to hit.
Oh,
great.
We have to explain how these work.
Oh, that's true. So they're actually a command phase thing now, which is big because Tyranid players haven't had that up until now. But unlike everybody else, their range can be massive. So the way it works is that the unit handing out the Synaptic Link can chain that through other Synapse creatures. The Synapse creatures have to be 12 inches apart. You don't get like the tip of Synapse bubble to the tip of Synapse bubble, but you can, through other Synapse creatures, literally hand out a buff from like 45 inches away if you want, through 2 other Synapse creatures and onto what you actually wanted to buff. So really, really unique ability. I think it's really cool. It's giving an actual benefit to Synapse because there was no benefit to Synapse.
Right. Well, there was a penalty.
There's a penalty. It was awesome.
So you take these Tyranid warriors, even if like a 3-man, and each command phase they get to give +1 to hit to someone else.
Yeah.
And is that Hive Fleet locked?
No.
Which is significant. So, okay.
Yes, it is. It is Hive Fleet locked.
But you can buy it outside of Leviathan.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Thank you, guys. 2 different questions there. Anybody could take this. It doesn't have to be Leviathan. But if your Leviathan warriors want to give your Kraken Genestealers +1 to hit, they are not able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we should also mention that you can purchase 3 of them.
You can purchase 3 of them. So I don't think we need to talk a great deal about why +1 to hit is amazing.
No.
It just makes things hit better. It's a big deal. Well, when we get to the list, you'll hear how it works in. So what's next, Alex?
Hold on, Tyler's got something.
Okay, Tyler.
It's also worth knowing you can purchase any one of them multiple times.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna. Okay.
Tyler's in a hotel room, so we're going to be patient with his internet.
Warriors, they can both take this.
Yeah, I think I know where he's going with this. You can take the same one twice. And I believe you can buy even more than 3. Oh, Tyler's disappearing into the warp.
Yeah. All right, well, let's keep the pace going. What's the next one?
Okay, I think the next one, as far as just the best one, is probably the Maliceptor.
Mm-hmm.
Focal Essence. It is a unmodified wound roll of 6, is an extra AP, and also reroll damage. And the reroll damage just fixes like the only problem we had remaining with Hive Guard. They were already quite accurate. You could get Exploding Sixes with Symbio Storm if you were in Kronos, and they would just leave you high and dry every once in a while as you rolled 1 damage into each 2-wound model.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to reroll that damage just makes them so reliable, and it lets you dig for some insane damage output on like 3-wound models. I did it into Occult Terminators recently, and it was really satisfying. Really satisfying.
Not just 3-wound models too, but also -1 damage models, right?
Yeah,
if somebody's -1 damage, if you roll anything but a 3, you just reroll. There's no reason not to.
Easy peasy.
No, you can't have now. An important note is you can't have that and +1 to hit.
Yes, the boons cannot be stacked up on a single squad. You have to spread them out.
Yep. Third.
Third best one. I honestly think that the third best one is actually the. Finding it on the page here. The Tyranid Prime, which is the Unchecked Ferocity, which is unmodified hit rolls of 6 are automatic wounds. It solves a lot of the problems for our infantry, which is a strength issue. Letting Gene Stealers or even Hormigons, which I've been debating recently, to swing way up into tougher targets is actually a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at full rerolls and the strat we'll get to, and all you want to do is dig for 6s, you can just like swing for the moon and have some absolutely absurd things happen with auto wounds.
Well, one of the problems Gene Stealers always had is that anything, if you were ever swinging in anything more than T4, it was very hard to predict what was going to happen. They didn't like to do math in that situation because you're doing a third. You're trying to succeed on a 33%, or when we were fighting knights, it was even worse than that. So if you realize that a sixth of the hit dice you're rolling are going to wound, regardless of the toughness, it changes the math significantly. Especially because we have ways to get full rerolls, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Beyond that, Zoanthrope one is a bit of a dud because of Zoanthropes. The Trigon Prime one is very good, but it's on a Trigon Prime.
Yep.
The Turvagon one, excellent, but on a Turvagon. That seems to be the case with a lot of these. And then I would say the last good one, solid one, is the Mastery of Shadows from the Broodlord. Because handing out all 3 types of cover is pretty good. Yep. If you could get that in not the command phase and at like the beginning of a battle round, so you could actually use it defensively, like as to blunt an alpha strike, or even just as a defensive option, like when this unit is targeted, I would say it'd probably be the best one in the book. But it is what it is.
Right. Okay.
It also has the massive downside of meaning you're not getting any of those offensive buffs, which can feel pretty bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So that's all the... Oh, is there other non-Leviathan stuff that I'm forgetting?
No, that was all of them.
Yeah, okay.
They're either attached to a bad body or they are good.
Right. The Turvagon's way too expensive to be good. We tried. It's just there's a bunch of stuff that just you can't take it because its buff is because it's just not like the Turvagon gives reroll 1s and 2s to wound. That's amazing, but we can't.
That's excellent. It's 210 points on a Turvagon.
Yeah, for something that doesn't really do anything. It's very sad. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna play Leviathan now because the rest of the rules are for Leviathan, and I personally have no bitterness towards this. I think it's fun that we're being forced away from Kraken and Kronos, and in Tyler's case, Drummonger. So, Tyler, what does Leviathan do? Share with the class.
Yeah, so Leviathan is going to give you access to a handful of things. We got a couple of Warlord traits, a couple of
No. I'm sorry. What does it do in the original book? Because people don't know that.
Oh, sure. Hive Fleet Leviathan offers you a 6+ Feel No Pain on the condition that you are within 6 inches of a Synapse creature, not to be confused with any of the other Synapse ranges. 6 inches of a Synapse creature, hard stop. It gives you access to the Leviathan Stratagem, the old Leviathan Stratagem, which is still in the book. Obviously, it's in the Codex, which is if you have a unit with fly and a unit without fly in combat with the same enemy unit, then all of those units can reroll ones to hit and wound. Damage too, or just hit and wound? I think it's just hit and wound.
Hit and wound.
Just hit and wound, yeah. And then also, as previously, you still have access to the Leviathan-specific psychic power, which Warp Charge 6, every Synapse unit in your army gets 6 inches of additional range on their Synapse, which doesn't mean much anymore, but it's the Fearless buff, and that's it. It doesn't affect anything else, just the Fearless. Not even the Instinctive Behavior, just the Fearless.
It's worse than that, because all it does is bring you up to 18.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, it makes it 18.
If you're a Hive
Tyrant, yeah. Stormlords, stay at 18.
The Hive Mind nerds are getting out of hand
or
now.
If you have the Norn
Crown, these rules are questionable. So, but now, if you take Leviathan, and the 6 of Feel No Pain isn't terrible, but the fact that it's locked to standing next to a Synapse creature is obnoxious. Anywho, we'll get a Codex someday. But in the meantime, we got Warlord Traits, we got Relics, and we got Stratagems. So, Tyler, why don't you walk us through the Warlord Traits? Which, by the way, we can take 2 of, but on the same guy. And that's it. There's no ability to take 17 Warlord Traits.
Correct. So we got 3 Warlord Traits for Hive Fleet Leviathan. I'll do them in order of... I'll sort of build up. The interesting one is Gestalt Commander, which is sort of fun. Every turn at the start of every battle round, at the start of the battle round, you get to pick any Warlord trait that you want. It can be a generic Tyranids one, or it can be a Hive Fleet specific Tyranids one. It can't be the Leviathan specific one from the Codex for some reason. Don't worry about it. But you get to have that Warlord trait for the battle round. You can pick the same one several times in a row, but you can't pick one that someone else already has. So you can't like double up, which you would want to. This is in the wrong order. I should have mentioned that this does not stack with another one that we'll get to, which is our redeploy, but it does give you some fun stuff. You can grab Ignores Cover from Jormungandr. You can redeploy the model itself on turn 1. You can use Swarmlord's old Warlord trait for that. You can regen wounds. It's kind of cute. Then that middle one is this redeploy, which, as I said, doesn't work with the sort of pick one every turn. But we've been waiting for this. It's glorious. We have good redeploy. Pick 2 units after you know who's going first, but before the first battle round.
Is that confirmed? The wording's correct on that?
I'm looking at the wording right now, and I see no indication that it wouldn't be.
Okay, cool. There's 2. For those that don't know, there's 2 kinds of redeploys in the game. Sometimes you get to know who's going first, and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
I'll clarify that this is the same verbiage as the Space Marine redeploy, which specifically has been FAQ to work after you go know who's going first.
Okay.
Sweet. So it works. You pick 2 units. They have to be units that are in your zone already. You can't use any of your forward deployers, which we don't have any of. Just 4 assists at this point. But you get to redeploy them.
What are the bomb guys called?
No, we don't do. They don't do that anymore. They just deep strike. When the new Forge World book came out, they got nerfed. Anyway. I guess if you use Spore Field? If you use Spore Field, then you could put guys in midfield, and then anyway.
Has anyone? I've never used Spore Field before. Anybody?
Lethurus swears by it. It's a really great. Anyway.
Okay.
None of that is the point. The point is you get to redeploy them, which is such a big deal for obvious reasons. We have a lot of stuff. If we're playing Leviathan, not Kraken, that is much tighter on range brackets than it used to be. So getting to start something on the line and then, I'm going second, I'm going to pull it back. Great. Or vice versa. Getting Hive Guard out of the way, getting things into better positions. It's all wonderful. And as the added bonus, because it's the 9th edition wording, you can choose to put those units into strategic reserve at no additional cost of command points, which is fantastic on anything you can.
Have you ever wanted to start your Hive Guard on the line? Because I know that I have. Many times wanted to start my Hive Guard on the line.
Oh, my opponent only has 1 actually good shooting unit? Okay, well, the Hive Guard kill it turn 1 for being on the line. Let's continue with the game.
Yeah. That's great.
That's fantastic.
And the third Warlord trait.
Last, but Jesus, absolutely not least, we have Swarm Leader, which is our glorious Chapter Master, our glorious Synapto Master. 9-inch range, pick an infantry beast or swarm. We don't have beasts, don't worry about it. Pick an infantry or swarm unit and give it Chapter Master full reroll to hit until the start of your next command phase. get used to taking it because it's amazing.
Unfortunately, I think we're always going to take the same 2. And that's kind of sad. You don't think so?
I really like. I'll talk about it later, but I think the Pokeball one has a lot of play. But
I'm actually curious what same 2 you think, Colin, because I agree. I think we are going to take the same 2, but I bet we're not thinking of the same 2.
I think Redeploy is amazing and game breaking in these lists, and I think that Chapter Master is as well. I want the Pokeball, and I think that it's this is how I feel. I think it is literally lunacy to not want Redeploy with Gene Stealers and Hive Guard. If you're not going to take one of those 2 things, maybe you can pitch me, but with Gene Stealers in particular, the ability to start them on the line means you just win some bad matchups. So that's how I feel about it.
So my take on it is that I actually don't have the Redeploy on my list right now.
Okay.
I really like Ignore Cover on Devil Gaunt's Colin. I can't not have it.
Okay. So you're going to have it for 1 turn? That's the plan?
No, you get it for every turn.
Get it for all 5 turns.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just taking that Warlord trait.
No, you can't. It's he's going to use the Pokeball to borrow it.
Yeah, I'm just going to use the Pokeball to choose Ignore Cover every single turn.
Oh, I thought you have to choose a different one every turn.
No, the wording is really specific. It says you pick at the beginning of the battle round, and it ends at the end of that battle round. So you're not allowed to pick one you already have, but it's gone when you go to pick it.
Okay. All right. So it lets you grab ones that are Hive Fleet locked from you.
Yeah,
so you
can
can
replace everything with Leviathan. So, Jormungandr. Yeah.
Okay.
Sweet.
All right. I see the argument. I don't
Mm-hmm.
agree because I don't try to kill things that are in cover with Termagants.
This is good though. Guys, this is good. We're actually having a debate about what is good in Tyranids rather than all just agreeing on the.
And wait, we're taking a Warlord trait, Alex.
I mean, our lists are going to be 16 to 1700 points the same, anyways. But yes, you're right.
Yeah, it's better than 2,000 points the same, and there only being one answer.
Well, Alex and I are typically going to be 2,000 points the same, so that'll be fun for everyone. That's just if Alex and I go and build a list by ourselves right now. When we come back, we did this with the Dynamic Heron list, and we did it with the Octarius rules. In both cases, we went and made a list, and came back and showed it to each other. And the one of them we were off by 28 points because I don't own a Pyrovore. That was how off we were. Anyways, okay, amazing Warlord traits. If you don't know how good Chapter Master is, everything is better when you get to reroll hits. The math is crazy. So wonderful. I will add before we move on to the relics that the Chapter Master reroll being a Warlord trait as opposed to a Link is a big deal because it means you can Chapter Master a thing that has one of the Link buffs on it. So you can have Hive Guard, for example, that are Chapter Mastered Hive Guard that are rerolling damage, and they're exploding on 6s, but we're not there yet.
Just as an example, you'll never see it on the table, but you know.
Some obscure strategies over here. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. John, do you want to tell us about relics?
I would love to talk about relics. Considering we barely took them, I took a free relic because I had to, and if I could have traded it for a command point, I would have.
So you don't like them at all?
I don't like them at all, but now I do. There are 4 relics here.
You're saying you didn't like them before? Okay, I'm with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, there are 4 relics here to choose from. Going down the line, real simple. One of them, the first one, is -1 to wound. Just on this character, -1 to wound. Considering Tyranids can have some T6, 7, or even 8 characters, -1 to wound is really good.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be in all our lists. No?
I think it depends. I want it on a Flyrant, but I don't have room for a Flyrant right now.
Oh, I have room for a Flyrant.
I want it on Swarmlord, but such is life.
Yeah, well, yes. If it could be on Swarmlord, then I would never play anything but Tyranids ever again. And it would be a whole situation for the podcast.
Yeah. The next one, the Void Crown, it's a Psyker buff. This one's pretty good. It gives you an additional power from the Hive Mind. It lets you cast a Psychic Power, 1 Psychic Power, even if you cast a Psychic Action, which is cool if you want to try to build those secondaries in. And then it if you ever roll an unmodified 9 on your Psychic Test or Action, you auto-pass, and it cannot be denied. So some really, really cool abilities on that one. The third one is Synaptic Hive Blades, which not replaces, but is an upgrade on top of a bone sword or monstrous bone sword, and you can't take invulns against those attacks. For context, both of those weapons are AP2 in combat, so make of that what you will. I think it's neat. Probably not going to make any of our top 3s ever.
No.
And the last one is also really good. The Adaptive Neurolobe is very simply just a 5-up. Every time your opponent spends a command point, you gain a CP on a 5-up. Simple CP regen, good old-fashioned
For an
fun.
army that desperately needs every single CP they can get, and if you spend CP wrong, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
That's
Point of
what's that, Tyler?
Point of clarification. If I'm reading this right, is this the kind where if they use a 3 CP strat, I roll 3 dice?
Yes.
It is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The CP spent on the stratagem.
Yeah, that's what I
But
thought.
it's the awkward one where if they use a 0 CP strat, you don't get to roll. It came up once and I was sad.
Well, I'll take that trade, I think.
Against Space Marines, yeah.
Damn you, White Scars.
And I think I would point out that Resonance Barb is still good. Just if we're talking about
Resonance
relics.
Barb is still good.
I think Resonance Barb is still good. So, of these, John, what are your 2?
Adaptive Neurolobe is automatic because there are just strats that I want to use as many times as possible.
Right.
As long as I can get 1 CP off of it, it was worth buying. If I can ever get 2, it was better. And I really like the biomorphic carapace for -1 to wound. It lets you take a relatively tough character, potentially apply some other buffs, and make it incredibly hard to shift. And Tyranids usually don't have incredibly hard to shift, so I wanted a Hive Tyrant that can go punch a plane and not feel bad about trying.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the stratagems, which is significant. So what we're going to do here is each of us are going to pick a favorite, and then we'll see.
Don't all pick the same one, everyone.
No, we're going to go one at a time, so it's not going to work that way. Each of us get to pick a favorite, and I'll go first and do the most obvious one, because that way the rest of you have to actually pick something. So, because there's one that's better than all the other ones, you see. So, what I want to do is each of us pick a favorite, and then let's see what the good ones are that are left after that, okay? Because 4 stratagems that are good is more than some codexes have. So, okay, the one that is obviously going to be everybody's favorite is the Exploding Sixes. So, the way that it works is it's 1 CP, shooting or melee, 6s score an extra hit, not an extra attempted hit like the old Templar rules. I just played them at a tournament and I found that very irritating. Just another hit. If your squad is over 10, or 11 or over basically, you get 2 extra hits. So big units of Steelers, big units of Termagants are going to get 3 hits per 6. The final language is, if this is a Gene Stealer unit, it costs 2 CP instead of 1 CP. I love when a stratagem tells you what you want to put it on. I really enjoy that. When it's like, yeah, don't put it on Steelers because it's more expensive on them. I'm like, oh, is it now? This stratagem is ridiculous, especially in an army that now has full rerolls. It is on mod 6s, which, by the way, Symbiostorm is now 2 as well. On mod 6s does mean the +1 to hit's not helping it, but it works on everything. Put it on your Hive Guard, put it on your Exocrine, right? It goes on. It's not infantry only, is it?
Yep. Anybody you want.
Yeah. Put it on Trogdor. Put it on whoever you want. And you can use it in shooting, and you can use it in combat, and because it's 1 CP, I don't see why Hive Guard wouldn't have it all the time. I don't see why Termagants wouldn't have it every time that they shoot, unless the Hive Guard needed it that turn. And then Steelers that are getting three hits on 6s is just a crazy... Like, we start talking about Chapter Master and Exploding 6s on these Steeler units, and that's just... It's an incredible amount of damage.
Plus auto wounds.
Yeah, plus auto wounds on 6s.
You just dig for 6s. I had 15 Steelers because I lost 1 in the Overwatch, kill 5 Occult Terminators and 4 Rubric Marines. Which is not even close to what they could kill before. Like, that's so beyond what they could ever handle before.
Right. Okay. Alex, favorite strat that is not that one?
Let's see here. I've got a favorite as far as, like, what's fun.
Okay.
My favorite fun one is animated by the Hive Mind. It's a 1 CP and you auto-explode a monster. Like, it's not the best stratagem in here, but hell yeah.
It's 1 CP for
Exploding
D3
monsters.
mortals, right? Like,
maybe D3. It could be more.
oh, that's right.
You know, jam that Swarm Lord in between like 8 different units or something.
Is he D6?
No, he's just D3.
Okay.
There is apparently another flat 3 monster, though, which would be also pretty absurd. If I'm talking about what I actually think is my best one, is objective secured. It's the Hive Mind Imperative. You hand out objective secured. If you are objective secured, you count as
taking 2
models. And then you can also shoot and not fail in action. Get out of here, John.
For the rest of us, Alex.
I had a meme, and then I had the actual favorite.
Alex, because some of the listeners might not get why that's so powerful, can you give an example of where you'd use that to be a big pivot in a game?
A lot of the units are still quite quick that we have. Gargoyles, Raveners, Sky Slasher Swarms, and we still have access to double move, whether that's through a stratagem or through Swarmlord. So taking a 45-point unit of Sky Slasher Swarms, moving them twice, and giving them objective secured, you can steal stuff that's like 30 inches away, no problem. Out of nowhere, you suddenly just deposit this little objective security unit on somebody's backline and go, hey, you get no primary next turn.
Mm-hmm. All right. He picked 2. Tyler, you get to pick 1. I'm making John go last because he grumbled about Alex picking 2.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I wanted to pick 2, but I'll pick 1. I'll pick a kind of a dark horse one here. Let me just reread it so I make sure that it works the way I think that it does. Yeah,
that's a very dark horse.
Okay, cool. So I'm really excited personally about Synaptic Domination, which no one's talking about. 1 CP, I pick a Synapse creature on the table and a non-Synapse unit. And this is in the Psychic phase for some reason. And until the start of my next Psychic phase, so for a full battle round, that unit counts as being both non-instinctive behavior and fearless range for Synapse. So I have a preemptive 1 CP auto pass. 30 Devil Gaunts showing up on the other side of the table is a very common situation in Tyranids lists. And being able to say for 1 CP, hey, I can tell you right now that unit is fearless, and that unit is not going to be a -2 to charge if it wants to charge funny things or shoot funny things. Very exciting to me personally.
I hadn't thought about that, but I think he's right. What was your other one? No, we'll let John pick. John, what's your favorite?
All right. My favorite remaining one has to be Hyper Adaptation, which is 2 CP in your command phase, and you select the Leviathan unit and you replace its until the next turn. You replace its Hive Fleet adaptation with a new Hive Fleet. So if you're Hive Fleet Leviathan, because of course you're using the stratagem, you can spend 2 CP in your command phase, yank Hive Fleet Leviathan out of there, and give it Hive Fleet Kraken. You do have to stick to the ones in the Tyranid Codex. You don't get to choose the custom ones from Blood of Baal that were reprinted here.
You totally do, John.
It
specifically says page 100 out of the Tyranid Codex.
Yeah, it says
no.
Codex.
It says look, read it again. See Tyranid's Codex and page 100. Page 100 of this book, where the custom ones are.
All right, there's an end in there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool,
So you can grab
great. You can choose those too. Well, more options, more better. But honestly, this might as well be 2 CP to be Hive Fleet Kraken, because I want it back.
Yeah.
And that makes me very happy. Because, you know what? I don't trust Gene Stealers that roll 1s on their advances, because I just played a game a couple hours ago, and I could not lie to you. I rolled a minimum of 10 1s on my advances across this game. I had a Hormigaunt squad roll a 1 turn 1 through 4, and I was embarrassed about it. And just when you need a Gene Stealer to make a charge, accept no substitutes.
Another good one, because this is the things that get ignored because they've just been bad forever. If let's say you know you're going to be able to get there with the Gene Stealers, swapping the Gene Stealers into Hive Fleet Hydra will let them reroll all of their hits. So if you already were going to put the full rerolls on the Hive Guard, you just turn them over to Hydra. They get full rerolls coming in with the full exploding 6s and all the rest. Obviously, this is very expensive. That's like 4 CP on a Gene Stealer unit, but if you're going for it, you might as well try it. I also noticed that the wording is really good for that, which I never thought of. Again, I just ignored Hydra that it existed. It is against target units containing fewer models than their own. So even if you're up against like 50 models and you're a 16-man, as long as each individual unit is smaller than yours, you still get it.
Yeah, but that's pretty good.
What did we forget, guys? What else is good?
I mean, we already mentioned 1 CP to get an extra Warlord Trait.
Which is nice.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
they're all
we have a
pretty
4-up
good.
deny power now. Yeah.
Legitimately, all the powers are pretty good.
Tonight, which is nice. I'm really excited to at some point in time surprise my opponent by walking in from strat reserve off of in their DZ, but not off of their table edge on turn 2.
Questing Tendrils, yep.
It's going to come up at some point.
One day.
I don't know when, but it's going to happen.
I don't think it will, but I'm hoping it will. I think I just get to tell
could
people
I
and
spend
make
that
them
1 CP
scream
on
my best.
pheromone trails instead, which would be just as good? Probably, but don't worry about it.
You literally could just pheromone trails.
It's just a flex. It's just a flex.
Yeah, but what if the Lictor needs to show up on the opposite side of the table and Rod?
Exactly. Thank you, Alex.
It might happen. I've had that situation where I've dropped in with the Genes or the Termagants and the Lictor and was like, I need to deep strike with pheromone trails, but I really wish this Lictor was somewhere else rotting.
That Lictor coming down the other side of the table rotting sounds so not wholesome. I can't even handle that at all. Okay.
Behind enemy lines, throwing a rod.
Are there any stratagems that we haven't covered?
We should mention that we have Wrath of Mars for flesh borers now.
Should we mention that?
I think it's important to remember if someone has one wound left, you're on your last unit.
What, John?
I said I think the only time that comes up is when someone has 1 wound left and 10 Termagants are your last unit.
Oh.
Yeah. It has to die. Please, please, God, let me roll a 6 to wound.
That's great. Okay, so that's all the stuff. Pretty much. I'm sure we missed a stratagem or something, but that's okay. Let's talk about how it all goes together. John played a game today, so not taking a ton of time to go through the list because it's Tyranids. It's not that complicated. But what did you take with you today, John?
Quite simply, I took a Tyranid Prime, a small warrior unit, and a Maliceptor as my Synaptic Links units. Then I had, to round up my Synapse, I had the Swarmlord and a Flying Hive Tyrant who was -1 to wound. My troop units were 30 Devil Gods.
Was it a punchy Flyrant, John?
What's that?
Punchy Flyrant?
Not particularly. He was just Rending Claw and Devour, classic staple. What he's been doing for years.
Okay.
30 Termagants, 16 Genestealers, 16 Genestealers, 10 Hormagaunts, Brick of Hive Guard, just 1, and then 2 units of Sky Slasher Swarms, a unit of Venom Thropes, and I'm pretty sure that was 2K. Nice and simple. I think 1 Hive Guard unit is enough. Devour Gaunts are great. The second Genestealer unit has felt really good through 1 game. After watching someone play with 1, I really wanted a second one immediately, and I feel like I have just the right amount of monster to rumble around at the center and attract attention, but not just get murdered by attention.
Okay. How do you, if you were explaining to someone that is newer to competitive 40K, how would you describe the overall way that list is going to play?
So I have about 4 different units that I can invest strats into and to make them do absurd amounts of damage compared to their basic profile, being, of course, the Hive Guard, the Genestealers, and the Termagants. And my goal is to use monsters, fast units, there's Lictor, and a little bit of trash to score the mission, while I pull off a couple of concerted punches that are going to hit really hard and do a lot of damage, while also screening, move, blocking, and messing with scores. And the whole time that's happening, I'm going to have Hive Guard chipping while I protect them.
Chipping may be a little unfair to the Hive Guard with how much damage they now do, but I'm with you.
You guys are going to hate this. I did not use the Tesla Strat on them once.
Okay.
And I didn't shoot them twice once.
Okay. Well.
Did you have the Maliceptor on your list?
Yep.
Okay. Fair enough. You honestly, you don't need Exploding Sixes with Chapter Master rerolls and damage. It's a nice gravy on top, but it's not necessary.
If I've got 1 turn to table someone, like against Orcs, where it just has to happen this turn, I'll take every damage buff I can get, but I didn't use it once on the Hive Guard.
Yeah. I think that's going to be one of the hardest things about playing Tyranids, is that we have so many... The stratagems in the original book are really good, too. Like, double shooting Hive Guard for 2 CP is great. So, but it's going to be hard to manage our CP and not just run out on the first turn from all the cool things we can do. And sometimes running out on the first turn, like John alluded to, against things like Orcs could be the play as well. So,
well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find a way to spend every stratagem against Orcs. Every single one, turn 1. Let's go.
Alex, how's what you're doing different from that?
I've gone with a second Stealer unit, which is probably...
He has 2 Stealer units.
TC units? Oh,
Oh,
right,
he
you
doesn't
didn't
have
have.
GSC.
Swarm Hive Guard.
Yeah. So my list
And
is, Swarmlord Prime as the HQs, 2 packs of Gene Stealers, Devil Gaunts, a single pack of Hormagaunts, single minimum pack of Warriors with the Lash Whips. I have 2 units of Hive Guard, which is probably the biggest change because they eat up a lot of space. I have a 6 and a 5. And then Lictor and Maliceptor, and then I've got a Magus and 2 packs of Acolytes. So I like the Blips as defensive tools against a lot of stuff. I don't feel like getting hit by AdMech infiltrators or ponies or Ravenwing, stuff like that. Or not Ravenwing.
Raven Guard.
Raven Guard, thank you.
Ultramarines.
Yeah, Ultramarines. It helps against planes in particular, that kind of stuff. And then the second Hive Guard unit is kind of my... I've always kind of had 2 shooting units in the Exocrine and the Hive Guard, and I just don't like only having 1 dedicated shooting unit. It allows my opponent to just go, oh, kills the 1 unit I have to avoid. I can just put a 36-inch bubble around that, or if I have to do 1 concerted push to get rid of it, that's it. You're out of shooting. I like having that idea of, oh, you killed these Hive Guard? That's fine. I've got another one 12 inches behind them, and they're going to keep on doing their thing. And still getting buffs from the Maliceptor. So a bit of redundancy in my list that John doesn't have, but there is definitely part of my soul that still wants that Hive Tyrant in my army.
Mm-hmm.
But
that Hive Tyrant is basically the price of 5 Hive Guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's
true.
And there's no way, now that I think, and I love the Hive Tyrant, so I don't want to be unfair because it does a little bit of damage in each phase. But over the course of a turn, I don't think it's going to do more to a plane than the Hive Guard are, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, but they're winning the game in different ways.
Yeah.
The Hive Guard are just blowing you away. The Hive Tyrant is actively affecting the board state and getting out and getting on objectives, and I understand both ways to play it.
All right. So, Tyler, what are you excited about playing?
Yeah, so I hear what Alex is saying about I need more than 1 shooting unit, and I hear what John is sort of implying about I don't really need a second Hive Guard unit. It's a really big liability. And I said, okay, cool. So what else can I get for 270 points that does a lot of shooting? And that brought me right back to where I started, which is with some hero duels. And I also refused to give up on the Orc matchup. So I want to hear all about John's Venom throws in a minute, but I've got, and I mean, I assume we're all just playing a Leviathan Battalion basically, or with a GSC patrol maybe. I've got the patrol. So my Leviathan Battalion has got my Malanthrope with Chapter Master and Pokeball, again for the Ignores cover, both in the Devil Gaunts and the Hero Duels. It's fantastic. 2 squads of 10 Hormagaunts, 28 Devil Gaunts, 2 squads of Warriors, both with +1 to hit. And with Lashbone and Adrenal Glands, a single squad of Hive Guard with enhanced resistance. That's the other thing about double Hive Guard is you can't really realistically afford to give them both enhanced resistance, and I really want that for the mirror, among other things.
Mana Core still exists too.
PVCs.
Maliceptor.
Yeah, we've lost
Can you hear
Tyler
me?
again.
Hello?
Hi.
No! Please come back.
Okay.
You're
There
back,
you go.
Tyler.
You're back.
This is like the worst time. I'm back? Okay. What did I... So
No,
yeah.
I think we got the
Single
gist
squad
of it. Basically, you're not taking
Victor-
Swarmlord and Gene Stealers in exchange for more shooting. Is that basically the idea?
Yeah, so I have 2 barbed hero duels. That's the big thing. I still have that, and then the Magus and 2x5 Flamer Acolytes. So 2 hero duels, each of which are getting +1 to hit from the Warriors, and the Hive Guard are getting to pop off. The output goes way off the charts, because I've been playing with 2 hero duels and Hive Guard, and all 3 of those units have been putting out fantastic, and all 3 of them just got a massive damage increase.
Oh, Tyler, turn
So
your
I'm
video
very
off.
happy to not
That's a good idea.
have... Okay.
I'm
very happy to not... Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I'm very happy to sacrifice a lot of the combat prowess. I mean, the duels themselves put out plenty of combat, especially with +1 to hit now. But I'm very happy to not have that ability to reach out and touch with Gene Stealers if I have more trash and more shooting. So that's sort of where I've ended up.
Mm-hmm. And I think your feeling is that your list is the best prepared for orcs. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so the scary thing that we're worried about with orcs is you get freebooted off the table, basically. And there are
Actually,
the way to
Tyler,
prevent
let
that
me
from
say
happening is
something. Let me say something for context. I don't think anybody in this group is particularly worried that we're just going to lose hard to Drakari. I think we all feel like we'll have a game there. I don't think anybody here thinks we're just going to lose hard to AdMech unless they've got a bazillion planes. We'll talk about that in a second. The main thing that this group is worried about is Orc vehicles, which is what every army is building for right now. It's difficult to decide, do you build to deal with Orc vehicles if you can, or do you hope that they get nerfed soon? So that's the part of the conversation that you guys didn't hear before what Tyler said. So go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, so in my mind, the way that you're going to beat freebooters is you need to prevent them from getting off their +1 to hit, and you need to prevent them from killing your Hive Guard. And the blips are going to help prevent them getting that. So the blips are going to keep the WAS bombs out of your DZ. John's right, it's hard, but it's doable. And the Maliceptor is going to hand out that -1 to hit, so suddenly everything that's not a rocket truck is hitting on 6s, and the rocket trucks and the WAS bombs are hitting on 5s. And then you're going to pop your Maliceptor strat, which, by the way, is now Hive Fleet locked, so don't try to mix your Hive Fleets, for -1 strength. So suddenly, if the Ruckas want to target the Hive Guard, they're going to do a very bad job of it. And if they want to target a chaff unit to try to get the +1 to hit off, that's Ruckas that aren't going into Hive Guard. Meanwhile, the rockets off all of the dang scrap jets are now hitting hero duels on 6s, wounding hero duels on 5s, and I have their EP3 because of Speedwa, a 5-up save against that, and the damage just falls off really quickly. The idea is if you can tank that long enough, the Hive Guard with all the buffs will kill a WAS bomb per activation almost. You have a little bit of pinch hitting there maybe. But you knock out both of the WAS bombs. Obviously, if you go first, you do that, you're in a good place. But if you go second, they're zoned, then they're dead, and then you sort of get to go from there. And having this much strength 8 multi-damage shooting is just not something that the orcs can deal with if they have to go second. And hopefully it's enough if they go first. I still have to test this.
Yeah, well, and basically with the conversation with the blips is and John's saying that even with the blips, they're still going to see you. If WAS bombs see Hive Guard, the game's over for the Hive Guard, right? Like you can. Yeah. Yes, they might roll bad. I understand. They're orcs, but we can't presume that they're going to roll bad. And they're built perfectly to kill the Hive Guard, so it's bad.
Yeah, if you gamble on if your game plan is I hope my opponent rolls poorly, you're just going to lose every game.
Well, that's probably fair. So, John, talk about your thoughts on that orc matchup.
Yeah, so I actually really want to try the hero duels. And I know that's Tyler's thing, but you know what? I will steal it without even feeling bad. 2 CP adapting my Hive Fleet. So I'm mostly thinking of Games Workshop terrain here, where it's a very large ruins, and if I touch any part of it, I'm probably getting seen by planes, because planes are just tall. They can fly directly in front of it, 9 inches away, and just look down. And if I go second, I think I just get seen. So my thought process here is that yes, I'm probably losing Hive Guard to that. I'm not. With orc shooting, it's so volatile. Again, I can reserve everything in my army that normally gives up easy kills, try to limit them, so -1 to hit me on 5s. 14 shots hitting on 5s, that probably kills 4 Hive Guard. Average is like 3, but it's orcs, so I assume they kill 4. Enough that I'm sad. And at that point, I really am just hoping that the Termagants scoop up both units of, or both planes right away. And then I just need to start getting in combat, get Gene Stewards in combat, start tying up rocket trucks, killing some, wounding some. I don't know if I'll be able to do it in time, but I'm thinking that I can slow things down to the point that they're not going to be hitting me on turn 2. If they do that, if they just put their planes in, and the Termagants can hold back out of Squig Buggy range, kill the planes in return if they focus on the Hive Guard, and then a Gene Stealer squad goes out, nukes a buggy unit, touches another one. I'm hoping that at that point I can kind of stay strong and just try to keep them in combat while the monsters go do work. Because if I can get to that turn 3, honestly at that point the AP doesn't even matter. But just hide my easy kills, keep the monsters at -1 strength and -1 to hit. And at that point it's going to be really annoying for them to ever power through that. try to get in there and start destroying them. I think I actually want to try to tool my monsters up to be better at killing buggies if I'm going to try that plan, but I'm going to take a swing with my first draft list first and see if it does enough.
And the idea with the Venoms is that if they're shooting Ruckas into them, then that's great because they're shooting Ruckas into them?
Yeah, it's very inefficient for Venom Thropes to be shot at by rocket trucks, so if they do it, I don't care. And also, turn 1, frankly, I probably deploy the Venom Thropes in a forest to either -2 to hit. And then it's just like, rocket trucks hit me on 6s, I couldn't care less. It'll take forever for them to kill me, and I'll be -1 strength, so they won't be on 4s. It'll take a very long time to chew through that.
Okay. I think that's great. All right, so we talked a lot about orcs there. What other stuff do you guys think is... Do we have an answer for Admech planes? What if somebody brings 4? What do you guys think?
4 is hard. I mean, I think our only plan against that kind of stuff is to try and smite and shoot them down as quickly as possible to limit how much damage they can do with us. Tyranids traditionally don't love playing against planes. Hive Guard that reroll damage are much better at killing them than they were before.
Okay.
Which is really nice. But it's still not exactly a guarantee.
Alex, what do you think?
I mean, I'm not too worried about it. No one else can beat the list either, so I'm not sure why we're suddenly expecting us to be able to do it.
I like to win all of my games, Alex. That's my preference.
The Admech matchup, the Admech plane matchup, the Orc plane matchup is everyone's problem right now. So we are definitely not unique into suffering against that.
Sure.
I think it can be done, but I'm not super planning against it yet. It's just kind of an outlier in the back of my mind. Also, there have been rumblings and grumblings that maybe some of these things are changing soon.
Yeah. And
I would like to see if that's the case. If not, I'll just deal with it at my next GT. We'll see what happens.
All right. Okay. Of things that are not Admech planes and Orc planes, we have just a few minutes left here. What do you guys think are matchups we should be concerned about? What should people be worried about if they're Tyranids for matchups to prepare for?
I think the Granite one is a very interesting challenge. It's not insurmountable at all, but any army that can constantly be maneuverable, redeploy, get angles, and has weight of fire has the potential to kill Tyranids. Like, I don't care if people are shooting las cannons into my Termagants, but when any army that has consistent weight of fire and ability to get it into a good position, that's always something you have to be kind of on your toes against.
Yeah, personally, the damage output of the Hive Guard, we'll call them new Hive Guard, into Marine bodies in particular just doesn't scare me anymore. So I think I'm not particularly worried about Grey Knights. They're very strong, and obviously they're an army that has to be taken seriously, but I don't think it's something that I'm like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to beat these Grey Knights. Not worried about Sisters anymore. Not particularly worried about Thousand Suns. Drukhari have the speed to just suddenly end up on your Hive Guard out of nowhere, so that's definitely still an issue, but that matchup is definitely a lot less scary than it was.
I like having Gene Stealers. That's actually I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you, Alex. Let me just get a thought out.
No worries.
When Tyler was talking about his list, I actually had a thought that I like Tyler's list as a thing for me to try, that I might really enjoy it. And then when you're talking again, I think in specific for me, well, aside from the fact that I need close combat to really have fun, I think that for the Drukhari matchup, I would much rather have, even though Tyler's hero duels are fantastic against Raiders, I'd rather have Gene Stealers in that matchup. I want to punch them as well. I kind of wish I had 10 5s of Gene Stealers in that matchup, but nonetheless.
I think the thing that is better into the Drukhari matchup now is just how much more rapidly we can get rid of Raiders. It's absurdly faster. And the second we can demech them, we actually have excellent tools to go and kill everything that came out of the Raiders. Gene Stealers with all the buffs going wide will literally just clear out an entire Drukhari army that isn't Talos and Kronos.
Yeah, Devil Gaunts will do it just as fast. I think that if you're a Tyranids player right now and you're listening to all of these very different ideas, the thing that I would be more concerned about in your local meta is not who you're up against, but what your terrain situation is like.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of people right now whose Tyranids lists start with 12 Hive Guard, and a unit of Devil Gaunts and a unit of Gene Stealers, and then pick one of those and take a second of that, and then sort of fill out with Chaff and whatever characters support those units best, and a Maliceptor. That's sort of the 1600 that we will all have the same, was the joke earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not, 12 Hive Guard is not an easy thing to hide. If you know what your terrain setup is and you know that you can hide 12 Hive Guard on it, great, awesome. You're playing WTC, cool, have fun. If you have no faith in your ability to barely hide one, your list has to be radically different. And the same goes for basically every other unit in this army. So make informed decisions based on your terrain. I think it's going to be a bigger problem than any army that doesn't have planes in it is going to be.
Wonderfully put, Tyler. Wonderfully put. I think that's 100%. That's 100% the way that it's going to be.
Yeah, the number one thing that we didn't get out of this entire thing, and it's really my only complaint about the entire thing, is that we didn't get any good defensive things. Our kill power skyrocketed, but we got one stratagem or one synaptic link off the Broodlord that doesn't really work in most situations, and other than that, we got nothing that made us just defensively better.
Right.
So
2 CP for light cover, bro.
And we are a very fragile army.
Yeah.
So I think that's true. Which is weird if you think about Tyranids, that them being a fragile army is a little strange.
That's why we put so much in that -1 to wound on 5 Tyrant.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so before we wrap it up, does anybody have anything else that they want to quickly say about Tyranids or about Octarius rules before we wrap this up? Anything we missed or that they're excited about?
Oh, I should mention the Turvagon, because I see a lot of people talking about it. Yeah, you can make a Turvagon -1 to wound, and you can give it -1 strength, and that makes it really funny, because strength 8 wounds it on 6s. Stop thinking about that. It's not good. Anyway.
I want it to be.
As Chuck likes to say, clever is not the same thing as good.
Yep.
And in that case, that is clever.
Yeah.
All right.
Neat.
Well, this was a lot of fun. I wanted to get that. This is not our normal episode. We'll be recording on Sunday, talking to Lucas, Tyler's former roommate, who got second but went undefeated at a GT with melee orcs of all things. And we're going to talk to Zach, who got first at that tournament with Thousand Suns, and that'll be on Sunday. So that'll be great fun. I want to thank Tyler and John and Alex of the Hive Mind for joining us here today. This is not the last time you'll talk to them. Eventually we'll get a codex, and let's do a 5-hour episode like the day the codex comes out, guys. I think that'd be fun. The first one of us that wins a tournament with new NIDs will have an entire episode dedicated to them. So that's the next time that'll happen. But for now, we're gonna wrap it up. So
does it count if I win SoCal with old NIDs?
Yes, that's absolutely that counts. If you go 5-1, you have an episode about you. We won't want to talk about NIDs because you're playing old NIDs, but go 5-1 and I'll make a big deal out of it.
Challenge accepted.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back at y'all in just a couple days and have an absolutely great time. It's time to play some Tyranids. Let's have a great time. Bye, everybody.